What's up, everybody?
What's up?
So it's Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. And when you see our faces on a Thursday, that means it's time for Inside the Relationship. So we're doing a bunch of things at the same time. We're trying to share it because we're going to ask you to share it.
That's right.
So if you're watching this now or you're watching the replay, just hit the share button. Doesn't cost you anything to hit the share button. We want to get as many people in here as possible. Not just to hear our voices, but to interact. The interaction is such a phenomenal thing, right?
Yes.
So we're talking about a lot today. If you saw the graphic for the show, we're talking about going from trauma to triumph and what that looks like. We got an interesting media mix down that I want your opinion on. Now, I haven't shared it with her.
Oh, boy.
Normally, I share things with her ahead of time. This one I didn't, and not to keep it from you, but we just didn't get a chance to talk about it ahead of time. We're talking about that. We got a good question of the week. All the segments that you have learned or grown to love and enjoy in this show are coming up. All right, so buckle up. Let's get ready for this episode. It is time for Inside the Relationship. All right, you ready to go?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's do it.
Let's go.
You're watching Inside the Relationship with Denise and Ollie.
So sit back, relax, and let's talk about all things relationships. Woo! Here we are. It's Thursday. What's
everyone.
happening? We already got people in the comments. Shout out to Be Cool in the comments. What's up, fam? What's up, family? Thank you for being here. Thank you for checking out the show and being a part of this show today. Listen, if you don't know where you are or who we are, you just happen to stumble upon this as you were going through your timeline. This is Inside the Relationship. It is a relationship show about all things relationships. Now, in this show, you will get advice, which is a little bit different, or let's say a lot different than our Saturday night show. You know, we're going to plug our Saturday night show, right? If you don't know about the Saturday night show, which is Have a Conversation After Dark, you need to come on Saturday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to have conversations. I mean, real, rugged, raw, funny conversations. Any conversation you could think of.
We have the same shirts on today.
We do?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. See, that's a sign. That means you're supposed to be there, right? So make sure that you put that on your calendar. That's Saturday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, who are we? I'm Oliver.
And I'm Denise.
We are passionate about relationships and seeing them thrive. We are authors, speakers, and coaches in that space. Matter of fact, since we plug in stuff, and I said we were authors, here's some things we're authors of, right? You can get this book right now, Overcoming the Man Loss for the Man Who Wants to Be His Best Despite What He Was Taught. You can get that on Amazon or on our website. I keep forgetting, babe, to put up a new graphic for your book. But for all the single mothers out there, this is something you need in your collection. It is the Dear Single Mommy Journal and Planner. I'm so proud of my wife for this resource that she has put together.
It's not on pre-order anymore.
It's not on pre-order. This is an old graphic.
You can order it from our website or you can order it from Amazon.
Indeed. So there are several resources that we have. Take a moment to check us out. Excuse me. Take a moment to follow us.
Do you have a graphic of
do
the
I have
journal?
a graphic of the journal? I think I do have a graphic of the journal. Let's see. Here's another great resource that you can get. Is this it right here? That is it. Have a Conversation Couples Journal. You can get that also on our website or on Amazon. It is a phenomenal way to spark conversation, to foster conversation in a healthy way. All right. So many resources, many opportunities for shows, many opportunities to interact with us on social media. So wherever you're watching this right now, if you're not already connected to us, make sure that you follow or subscribe respectively. All right. Listen, that's it for the preliminary stuff. We got to get into these segments, man. So here it is. It's time for the first segment. We are going to go ahead and talk about some things that we see in social media, and that falls under this segment called the Media Mixdown. Let's go. Okay.
Okay, so you did not share this one with me.
I did not share this one with you. And it's not nothing crazy, but here's the
Okay.
media mixdown. So I'm watching Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco do a podcast.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So Chad is telling a story to Shay about a time that his wife went out to the club with her girlfriends.
Mm-hmm.
She had been drinking a little bit in the club. She calls him after midnight. He said it's like 12:30, and he's usually asleep at that time. So gets woken up out of his sleep. She calls him and
This is
proceeds.
his wife.
This is his wife. She
Okay.
calls him from the club and is like, "I'm gonna be home soon," and proceeds to tell him all of this sexual stuff that is gonna happen when she get back.
Great.
She's like, "Man, listen, I had a couple of these things. I forgot what drink it was." She was like, "Babe, I had a couple of these things, and you about to get dusted when we get back." it's gonna be on and popping when you get back, right?
I love it.
So now he's like, bro is like, I think he said he took a shower. He was all lotioned up. He said he was ready to go, right? Now he gets ready for her. She comes home. She does whatever she got to do. She gets in the bed.
And falls asleep.
Yes, but check this out. This is why we need to talk about this. She gets in the bed. Chad is like, when she gets in the bed, I pretend when she gets home that I'm asleep. So he's pretending, and these were almost his exact words. I'm paraphrasing, but she gets in the bed and he tells Shannon, he was like, I pretended I was asleep, and I laid there acting like I was asleep, waiting for her to make the first move. And while he's waiting for her to make the first move, he turns over and hears her snoring. And he gets mad. Okay. So now here's a question I have for you, because this is where him and Shannon started going back and forth. Shannon was like, here's the problem with that. The problem is that you never shared or articulated your expectations.
What? Okay.
Because she came home, he pretended he was asleep.
Right.
Waiting for her to make the first move.
Okay. I see.
But he never said anything.
Right. So she's like, oh, well,
He's
he's
asleep.
asleep. Let me let him sleep. Let me
Right.
leave him alone and just let him sleep.
Right. I got a couple questions for you.
Okay. Because I
One-
got something to say too.
One,
Can I say what I got to
yeah, say what you're gonna say. Go ahead.
So to me, if she's gonna call him with all that energy,
Mhm.
she should have awakened him, or woke him
Oh,
up,
so
or awakened him.
You literally answered the question I was about to ask you.
That's a lot of energy. If you're gonna say all of what you said, that made him be like, oh, let me get up.
Right.
You know, I would have awakened you if I had that much energy over the
Interesting.
phone. I think I would have awakened you
And hey, listen,
with that type of energy
if you watching now, you watching
that she seemingly gave out.
right. So here's what's interesting. And if you're watching now or watching the replay, we would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Bavobo say, yep, that's what he get for playing. No?
Man. Okay.
You
No. I'm not disagreeing, but that's interesting, right? Because and she Bavobo also said, nah, Denise Marcel,
Denise,
she was drunk.
drunk.
So
Yeah, see, I thought about that too. So yeah, I don't know. So what does that mean? She was drunk. What does that mean? Whatever she says doesn't go?
Well, it might not mean that, but she might not have been in the frame of mind to be like, okay, let me just go ahead and wake him up regardless of what happens, whether he's asleep or not. Now, literally the question I was going to ask you was, should she have woken him up?
I would have. If I was giving out that much energy from how you're saying he was telling the story,
Okay.
I think I would have woke you up.
So what I didn't say, but hopefully you gathered from the graphic, is that we have a phenomenal guest for today for the Marriage Minute segment.
Oops.
Our guest is in the comments saying, wake up.
Wake up.
Wake up.
But she was
see, okay. So that is what Chad was saying. So Chad's argument was, hey, listen, you got me out of my sleep to tell me that all this fireworks is going to shoot off. And then when you get home, you don't do nothing. It don't matter whether I was faking that I was asleep or not. Right.
Mhm.
So
Right.
Bavova was saying she had a good buzz, so she
She had a
went to
good-
sleep.
Yeah,
And which I understand that.
that sounds like my story.
I understand that. So, right. So his argument was, if you're going to do all this big talk,
Mhm.
then it shouldn't matter what's happening when you walk in the house. Right.
Right. I
Shannon
agree.
Shannon was like, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have acted like you were asleep. If you knew you were ready and all that kind of stuff, then just go on and be ready and be awake and be there.
What really is the point in pretending to be asleep?
That's a whole nother show.
Really?
Yeah. That's a whole
We
nother
can
show.
talk about that?
Yeah,
Like,
we could talk about that because, well, we can't talk too long about it right now because I want to get to our guests at some point. But let me just say this, though. Let me say this to what you said, to acknowledge what you said.
Is it part of the whole? Is it part of what's the word?
The foreplay of it all.
Yeah. Is that
It-
part of
so
foreplay of it all?
it might be part of that, but it also, I'm going to speak for me. Let's be clear. I'm not speaking for all men. I'm going to speak for me. There are times when I want you to make the first move
Mhm.
because I want to feel wanted.
I understand that, but you don't have to pretend that you're asleep.
I'm not saying I would pretend I'm
To-
asleep, but that could have been, he didn't go into this, but that
Yeah.
could have been
What he was going
Right.
after.
right. If you that excited and you saying you want me that bad, then I want you to make good on that.
The foreplay.
Right. So it could be a number of things, right? It could be a number of things. Why is he pretending?
That's what I'm saying. That's
Why is he
what I
pretending?
don't. That's what I don't understand.
And listen, that's a valid argument. Why is he pretending? If she called and said, get ready, then he should have been on the edge of the bed
Yeah, not
waiting.
sleep.
Or should have been in the garage or at the front door or wherever. Like he should have been anticipated.
That's
right?
what I'm thinking. Yeah. Like,
Now, our guest, Armina, says to spice
to
it up.
spice it up. Yeah, I guess, but pretending to be asleep is not very spicy to me.
Do you know
To
how
me.
wonderful it is to be awakened out of your sleep for sex?
No, I don't.
Exactly. Exactly. But
I don't know how wonderful that is because
but I would
don't
like to
wake
know that.
me up.
But exactly. So that's why you can't understand that. I would love to be awakened.
Do not wake me up.
You can wake me out of the grave for sex. I will get up. I will get up. I will get up without a problem.
Don't wake me up. Absolutely not. Maybe sometimes, but
Without a problem.
not
So
often.
here's what I want to put out there as we get into this. And the comments are wild. Most men will.
Most men will.
So here's what I'm wondering though. Barring the the acting like you're falling asleep, right? Should we communicate to our spouses that we want them to make the first move? So is that a conversation that I should have? Listen, when you come home, if you're talking this big talk,
Mhm.
you make the rush.
Yeah.
You make the rush move when you come home. That's
Yeah.
what I would prefer.
Yeah.
So that's a conversation that should be had.
I think that can be said.
Okay.
I think that can be said. Yeah.
Okay. Because Shay's argument was, and Bavobo says absolutely
Mm-hmm.
in all caps.
Yeah.
Because Shannon's argument was, hey, listen, what that sounds like to me is that you had some expectations that you never
said anything about. I
And
agree.
Armina said that depends. I think it depends on the people.
On the people.
So Armina, what may actually happen is once you get into this segment, we might have to take like 3 minutes just to kind of, flush
to
this,
address
go
your
back
comments.
to this in a second.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit. So listen, I'm not going to say, although this is a show where advice is given, I'm not going to say what's right or wrong. I am going to say, however, that if there is something you would like to see happen, you should probably say it.
It reminds me of what our good friend Doc Parks said actually just last night. That I'm not saying that this scenario would cause them to end up in divorce, but he said that most divorces end because of assumptions and expectations.
Mhm.
unspoken expectations.
Mhm.
This is one of them.
Yeah.
You expected something and it didn't happen, but you didn't you didn't voice your expectations. It was never said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I agree. I agree with Shannon Sharp. He should have said something, in my opinion.
The Vogel says, "Speak up and put up."
That's right.
Armina said the conversation happens before the day or the time. Yes.
Yes.
It starts with talking through thoughts and expectations.
Yep.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. True. Not saying what you want. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. So next time now, like, hey, listen, babe, the next time you go to the club and you wake me up out of my sleep talking this big talk,
Yeah.
like, come in and big walk.
Yeah. I agree.
Like, walk it out. Right. And I would love, again, as we're going through the show, if something comes to you, share your thoughts on what you think about our not everyone is an initiator.
Not everyone is an initiator. That's true.
Even if I'm talking smack.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be, because I could say all of this stuff that's going to happen, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to initiate what happens. It will still happen, but I'm not going to initiate it.
Now, here's a road I don't want to go down, because this will really make the segment longer than it should be. Should everyone, this is rhetorical, should each person be an initiator?
Should?
Yes, should. Is there any scenario where if I'm always initiating that I somehow feel some kind of way?
I think that depends on each couple and each person's desires, I guess. Each couple could possibly be different. For one couple, it may not be a big deal. I don't care if he initiates or not, as long as it's happening. For another couple, it might be, yes, I do not want to always be the one that initiates. I guess it just, in my mind, I think it just depends on each couple. It's just all relative.
So you got to talk, basically.
You have to talk.
Is the
We
gist
always
of
come
all of
back
this.
to all of
Yeah, I
that.
guess you got to have a conversation,
You
because
have to talk.
you can't. There's something we are often saying, is that you can't leave anything to chance. Because the moment you leave something to chance, you open the door for conflict. So, hey, you want her to big walk and big talk? Say that. You want him to big walk and big talk? Say that.
Yeah.
How does this show up? Armina said, how does this show up or work if both are first timers?
Huh.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I mean,
so go ahead.
I think that even if both are first timers, one or both of you has a level of assertion. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Assertiveness.
We'll make it a word.
A
for now.
level of assertiveness in, there's got to be some things that you take the initiative of or on outside of sexual intimacy. I think there's got to be something. So whoever that person is, maybe it will kick in. I just can't. What are you going to do? Just sit there and not do anything ever? Somebody will make the first move, I think.
I think if you want it bad enough, even if your initiation doesn't look like, in air quotes, initiation, you want something, you will do something.
Yeah, I agree.
Even if it's just an eye gesture or some level of body language.
I think somebody will do
you
something.
just scoot back in the bed, which, again, I can't speak for all guys, but you scoot your behind back in the bed, like,
that means something?
up against me, then I'm looking at this, how many seconds this gonna take.
Armina said, "Bring me in."
Okay, our guest wants to jump in on this. All right, so let's get our guest in. So let me just say, this is a wonderful friend of ours, phenomenal resource. I was going to introduce her at the segment where she's coming in, but phenomenal resource, therapist, friend, Armina Dominic. Please please.
Hear ye her.
Yeah, yeah. We don't have my applause don't work, so I can't give you applause right now. But thank you for being here.
Hey,
So
y'all.
so you want to jump in on this? All right, let's go.
So it's intimacy is a vibe, right? So like let's just talk a little bit about that, because you're going to feel out your partner. And I know we keep talking about communication, but not everything requires communication. And I know we don't say that too often because we want to drill in people's head like, hey, we need you to talk. We need you to work things out and iron it out. But there are certain things, it's a vibe. You know, there are days where it's just a look and then boom, it's happening. It's like, we're not talking about it. Nobody has time to jump in the shower and get all dialed up. You know, so their intimacy is a vibe. And sometimes I think the longer you're married, you tend to lose that vibe a little bit, but you got to keep that vibe going. You got to be spicy about it. And so that was the only thing I wanted to just jump in and say, is that it's a vibe. And last night we talked about no one wins or lose. We all winning together or we all losing together. So if I don't initiate, but we've already talked about what we're going to do and what's going to go down, then, you know, scoop me up, have my back, and just, you know, do what we said we were going to do, even though you wanted me to initiate it.
Exactly.
So, and I said she was probably trash talking because that liquor had hit real good. And so she was like, la, 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 la.
Right,
and
right.
then by the time she got home, was like, and just knocked out. Like he was like really anticipating this. And so I don't know if he shared this. So what happened the next day, right? Was this just one of those things where he just let go? Or did he say, you know, I was disappointed that you didn't? Like, I wonder what that conversation was, because it made the show. So if it made the show, then that must mean there's some emotional connection still signed to it.
Correct.
So I'll give you a little bit. So how this even came up in their conversation is the woman was there. She wasn't on screen, but you could hear her in the background, and every once in a while she kind of peek in the camera and try to correct what he was saying. So what he was describing was a time where he got up and left the house. And he got up and left the house as a result of, and then they go into this story.
So in that moment,
so he was upset.
So when she was laid out sleep, he was so upset that he left.
He left.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he was upset. Which is a whole nother show.
Yes.
By the way,
like what triggered that? Like what was, did he feel rejected? Did he feel abandoned in that moment? Like what triggered him for that? Because what you're describing, his actions doesn't really match, right? Like the scenario. So the behavior, the action, it hit him differently where he felt the need to exit, you know. And so,
hey, listen, again, I can't speak for all guys, right? But, and this could be a Saturday night show because this is something we haven't talked about, right? So me, Oliver Marcel, I get disappointed when anticipation has been introduced
and it doesn't
and not executed on. Oliver Marcel. I'm not gonna throw. Don't no other guy need to come out on this limb with me. It's strong enough for you to come out, but I'll be out here on my own if I have to be. There are times where this lovely lady right here will be like, yeah, you about to get knocked down, brother. Later on. And later on will come and brother ain't got knocked down.
Come and go.
And I'll be feeling some kind of way.
Aww.
Now, I never left the house. You know what I'm saying? But I do be feeling some kind of way. You know, so I get it. I get the disappointment. However, now that comes back to here's what I have never done. If we're gonna be transparent. What I have never done is gone to her and be like, man, I felt some kind of way when you didn't do that.
Yeah.
I've never done that. Now, you can question why that is. And you would think that me, of all people, who does this for folk, would know to go do that. But I've never done that.
I want to hear from our therapist as to why you think that is, that he doesn't come back to me the next day or later on that night and say, you know, man, I was kind of disappointed. I really was hoping that, everything that we talked about was going to happen. Do
Now,
you think that it's to spare me from feeling bad, or I don't know, like, well, I guess I could ask you, why do you think that is?
So that's a great question. And Bavobo said, how was she to know how you feel? So let me
I think I
so
probably know how
so
he feels at this stage in our lives.
yeah, and if
I
I'm being
think.
honest, now this is turning into a therapy session for us, but that's cool. We can do that. We can do that on camera. So 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 if I'm being honest, if I had to really think through it, I feel like sometimes me expressing my disappointment
Mhm.
is negative in some way.
Really?
What I don't want to do is, we don't have time to flesh this out, but let me just say this. What I don't want to, and this is Oliver Marcel, I'm not speaking for other guys. What I don't want to do for her, and this is there's context. Can I give context since we go in there? Let's go there.
Mhm.
Let me give context. We have had, and we've talked about this on the Saturday night show. We have gone through desire discrepancy issues
Mhm.
in the past.
Mhm.
And I did not handle that well in the past. So it would come across as I'm just this gimme, 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 gimme.
Yeah.
Why you ain't giving me, gimme, gimme, gimme.
Yeah.
Right. So now fast forward, part of me now in an attempt to not be that guy,
Mm. You've gone completely
I've swung the pendulum in the
all the
opposite
way to
direction.
the, yeah.
So if there's a time where you're like, okay, man, you about to get knocked down and it doesn't happen, I just keep it to myself because I don't want to come back to you and be like, well, what's up? What's up? What's up?
Because you don't want to
Because I
go
did that
back to
before.
that person
Right.
again, being that person
Right.
again. Or you don't want
I don't want you to feel
to
like
think,
that's where I'm at.
yeah. Oh, I feel bad now.
Okay. Therapy session over. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you for being a part of this. We thank you. we thank you.
What's your input? What's your input, Armina?
I don't have one. He just gave it all. I think this is like a ground foundation that leads to a conversation outside of this, because
Mhm.
I was going to say, and my role in this tonight is not to be anyone's therapist, but where did that come from? That seems to be a seed or something that was planted even before Denise came along.
I agree.
And so
Hmm.
we are trying to be better, do better. We're more conscious of how we show up in our relationships. So I could see you wanting to be to show Denise that you are working on you. But that goes back to the whole thing about safety, trust, and vulnerability, right? And so if that truly exists, would you still hold back? And I don't want you to answer that question, but I just really want you to kind of ponder that, and maybe that's a conversation or a deeper conversation that you two would have.
I love it.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really
That's something
good.
to think about.
It is.
Yeah.
I received that. Yeah.
Listen, I'm gonna hold y'all to this. I'm
Yeah. We'll report.
I'm coming back.
Yeah, we'll report back.
Yes, we will.
Okay.
I was just about to
We'll
say
report back without a doubt.
we gotta have a conversation.
Yeah, we'll report back without a doubt. But
Awesome.
Bobo said, or giving me something else I need to do or didn't do. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
Man, listen, this is a great
This was
it's a great media
good.
mixdown, man.
Yeah.
Media mixdown has never in the history of Inside the Relationship turned into a therapy session. So listen, there's a first time for everything. So
I love it.
listen, that's the media mixdown. For those who are jumping in and out, if you don't know what we're talking about a clip that from the Ocho Cinco and Shannon Sharp podcast where they were talking about the fact that Chad's wife called him, or girlfriend, I don't even know if it's his wife, I think it's his wife, called him from the club, and it was 12:30, woke him up out of his sleep, and talking big game about what was going to happen when she got home, and you better be prepared. He got prepared, showered, lotioned up, ready to go, ready to rock, but pretends he's asleep. She comes in, does her thing, goes, gets into bed. He's asleep, apparently. He's waiting for her to make this move for all this big talk she was doing, and hears her snoring. and gets upset.
Mm.
What do you think? That's the media mix down for today. Thank you so much for being a part of that. Listen, if you have stuff that you run across in social media and you're like, you know what, we would love to see them chop it up about that on Inside the Relationship, you can send us a message wherever you are watching this right now, or you can send an email to the email that's on your screen, and we will add it to the media mixdown. We would love to get suggestions. If you find something that you like, man, this is funny, this is crazy, this is whatever it is, let's see how they chop it up. Send it to us, and we'll
Send
make
it to
sure
us. That'd be
that
good.
we
Good
make that
conversation.
a part of the media mixdown. So listen,
Can
since
you
our
kick me
guest,
out? Can you kick me out?
oh, I was about to say, since I was literally just about to say, since our guest is here, she can stay here. But since she wants to go back,
Yeah.
we'll send her back.
Okay.
All right. Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you
Peace
for
out.
coming in.
All right.
So listen, you will see Armina a little bit later for the marriage minute. So now let's get into our second segment of the show. That was the media mixdown. Feel free to leave your comments in there about the media mixdown. Let's get into this question of the week. All right, here's the question of the week.
Question of the week. Oh, my partner and I have different love languages, which happens a lot.
Mhm.
How can we better understand and meet each other's needs?
Okay.
So, my partner and I have different love languages. How can we better understand and meet each other's needs? I think if this question is being asked, it's because the person asking the question, oh no, I shouldn't speculate.
I mean, you can. We got room because there's not a lot of context. So
To me, if you're asking this question, it's because you are trying to speak to your spouse with what is your most important love language. That's the
okay.
first thing I thought of, and I could be
Okay.
totally wrong, but that is the first thing I thought of. And I think that we need to, when trying to learn our spouse's love language, I think that we need to just leave put our love language to the side.
Mm-hmm.
Just pretend it doesn't exist and just learn your spouse.
Learn your spouse.
Learn
Okay.
your spouse.
Okay.
Ask questions.
Mhm.
And for example, if I'm continually giving you gifts and you're just like, "Oh, thanks. Appreciate it."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Man, you don't seem like you really like this gift." And you're just like, "Well, you give me gifts all the time and I really do appreciate it, but it doesn't make me feel loved."
Mhm.
You
Okay.
can't leave it at that and be like, "Whoa, how could you say you don't feel loved? This is how I express my love to you. I give you gifts. This is what I do."
Mhm.
It's your responsibility and mine. It's our responsibility to learn each other. And so you got to tell me, I appreciate the gifts, but what makes me feel loved is
Mhm.
when XYZ happens, when you affirm me,
Yeah.
when you rub the back of my head, when you rub the back of my neck, or whatever, physical touch, period.
Mhm.
That's what makes me feel most loved. It's got to be a
Mhm.
conversation.
Yep. I agree.
It's got to be a conversation. And that happens when you ask questions
Yeah.
to your spouse, you know?
Yeah. I agree. Listen, I'm going to use a story that I've used before. So anybody who follows us, like really follows us,
Might have heard
will
this
have heard
before.
this before, but it's a great illustration. So you need to learn. I'm going to say what you just said. You need to learn your spouse.
Mhm.
Now, imagine this, right? Imagine that you speak German, right? And I speak English,
Mhm.
and I'm just rah, 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 rah to you in English,
Mhm.
but I'm getting mad at you because you don't understand.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not speaking your language.
Right.
I'm speaking my language
Right.
and upset that you don't understand my language.
Right.
That's what we do with this whole love language thing.
Mhm.
This is how I love to be loved.
Yeah.
So this is how I'm going to love. and I'm gonna get mad at you because you ain't receiving it, right? So how can you better understand and meet each other's needs? You actually need to know what those needs are. You got to have a conversation about what those needs are. But Bobo said, my love language is acts of service and hubby is touch.
I
have to work at touching him.
Touching him besides in the
Exactly.
bedroom.
Right.
And that's it. We have to work on it.
You got to do it.
We have to work at it. And I think a lot of times, we until we get comfortable doing it, we're uncomfortable doing it because it's not out. Just like when you're learning a language.
Exactly.
You stumble up on some words, you might say the wrong words initially, or you might be like, wait, how do you say this word again? And you gotta go look it up and all that type of stuff until you're fluent. Until you're fluent in that language.
And that leads into the story that I was going to tell, right? So when I was in the corporate space, I worked at a corporation, and there were 5 buildings on the campus of the corporation, right? There was a Hispanic gentleman who was the facilities director for all the buildings. His name is Severo. And he and he is the nicest person I've ever met. He and I hit it off. And at some point he comes to me and he was like, listen, man, we have these conversations every morning when I see you coming in, or these conversations at lunch when I see you walking by. We're going to start having these conversations in Spanish. And I was like, bruh, that these conversations ain't gonna go the same because I don't speak Spanish, right? So he's like, I'm gonna teach you. And literally for a while, I would walk around with pen and pad so that when I run into Severio, I would be able to write down something. Severio, how do you say XYZ? He would tell me how to say it. I'd write it down. I begin to practice that and put it in sentences when I would see him. Now, fast forward, there was a period of time, there's a 6th building that's not on the campus, that's in a different location. And I had a stint where I was in that building primarily. So I didn't see him every day. I left all the stuff that I had learned on that pad at my other desk in the other building that I was in. So now months go by. I'm not practicing. I'm not putting this in conversation. I'm not speaking it at all. I see him and he just starts speaking.
Yeah.
Like he would normally do, because I had gotten to the place where I had learned enough to be able to have effective conversation with him, but I had not been practicing. So now months go by. I finally see him again. He starts talking and I don't know.
Spanish.
Yes. And I don't know nothing this brother's saying. And he's looking at me like, bro, what happened?
Yeah.
And what happened was that even though I was learning, I did not continue to execute what I was learning. And so I forgot it.
Yeah.
So how can you better understand and meet each other's needs? You first need to know what they are. You have to have conversations about them. Then you have to walk each other through what that looks like. Hey, I'm physical touch. Physical touch could mean anything.
Right.
What physical touch?
Yeah.
What does it look like? How can I speak your language effectively? How do I say physical touch? How do I say acts of or act out? And I'm using say because of the story that I told.
Yeah.
How do I act that out in a way that allows you to receive it, understand it, accept it, and be benefited by it?
Yeah.
You got to do that.
Appreciative of the fact that you're taking the time to learn me, because you want to be connected to me.
Right.
And so that's what we got to do.
That's what we got to do.
Yeah.
And we could go on and on about that, but that's really at the core of it. You got to start having conversations and teaching each other how to speak.
Yeah.
Speak
your language.
All right. Bavobo said an excellent story, way to apply. That's the question of the week. My partner and I have different love languages. How can we better understand and meet each other's needs? You need to start learning.
Yeah.
And you need to start consistently executing what you are learning.
Yeah.
All right. Just like the segment before, the media mixdown, if you have a question that you would like for us to tackle, you can send that question, message us wherever you're watching this now, or you can send that to the email address that is on the screen, and we will make sure that we get that question in rotation so that we can answer it on this show during the question of the week segment. All right. Now, It's time for our guest to come back. Our guest is here. If you saw the graphic is entitled "From Trauma to Triumph," and we will be talking with Armina about this and kind of going through some things and getting her expertise and her value that she will add in this segment entitled "The Marriage Minute." Let's go. We're back.
We are back with our girl.
Yeah,
Hey,
this is good.
everybody.
This is good. So listen, before we get into it, share with the people who you are and how you serve the world. And then may I ask you to maybe give some context to the conversation that we're going to have? Because going from trauma to triumph is indicative of a process. There's something that comes before that process in the way of context. And if you wouldn't mind, introducing our conversation by doing that as well after you introduce yourself.
So I'm Armina Domingue. I am the co-founder of Candor Consulting Firm, where we do therapy and coaching and training and development. And so we're just out here trying to save lives, either in the corporate sector, in the private sector, or individually, or in the household sector. Okay. And so I am trauma-informed trained, and so I tend to focus, or I really am gifted in trauma in the twins. And the twins are depression and anxiety. And I call them twins because they always show up together. They may not show up at the same time, but best to believe they're lagging. And so I typically work with people who have experienced trauma, and we call it big T, meaning like life-changing traumatic events, to little t, and as though there may not be life-changing, they're still impactful. And so that's what I do. I'm also the family life leader relationships director at my church. I go to the Germantown SDA Church, where my pastor is, Pastor Corey Johnson.
Shout out to Germantown.
Hey. And so, yeah, we just out here trying to save lives. And so we have joined and collaborated together to make that happen.
Yes. Speaking of collaboration, shameless plug. It's not shameless at all. I mean to. Well, shameless means it is. I mean to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is shameless.
Plug.
Shameless, right?
Yeah.
So if you are in the Philadelphia area on Saturday morning,
yes,
you need to find your way to Germantown.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You will see Armina's face.
Yes.
And you will see our faces along with some other phenomenal individuals to sit on a panel to have a very much needed discussion.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're in Philly on Saturday, make sure that you come and rock with us for this event.
Yes. Or we will be live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There you go.
Yes.
So if you're not in Philly, that's no excuse.
Right.
How about
Exactly.
that? How about that? So let's get into this. There are a couple of things that some touch points that I'm curious about, but can we start by maybe identifying or defining what trauma is?
Yeah. So right before I do that, the time is service starts at 11:30, but do not wait till 11:30 to show up though.
Yeah. Don't wait till 11:30 to show up. Now, if you're watching virtually, then you could probably show up at 11:29. But
yes.
Yeah, but if you show up at 11:29 in Philadelphia, you ain't gonna have nowhere to sit. So just be aware of that.
Yes. And if you're gonna sit in the overflow room, well, so come early. The whole thing is come early to get a good seat.
Right.
So we have often, I should say not we, I have often heard trauma as an event. And we actually say, a traumatic event, right? And while the event may be traumatic, it is not trauma. So I really needed to say that because we say we're traumatized, which is a reaction or a response to an event. But trauma is not an event. Trauma is the response that you give to the event.
good. I
Mm.
like that. I'm glad that you cleared that up because my
Mhm.
question was going to be along those lines
Mhm.
of can I, for example, experience something and call it trauma when it's really not trauma?
Hmm.
You can call anything anything because who are we to tell you whether if it is or isn't? Right?
True.
You get to
Good
own
point.
that space. You get to own how you feel. You get to
Mhm.
own your thinking, but just be sure to own it and back it up. Right? And
Mhm.
so, you know, the three of us could be in a car and there's an accident, and it's a fender bender, right? So no one gets hurt, but that thing could be enough for me because maybe the car hit us from the back, and or maybe I was sitting in the passenger seat, and every time I'm in the passenger seat after that event,
Yeah.
I'm reaching for these brakes that don't exist on the passenger side,
Mhm.
right? So whereas Ali gets into the same car sitting in the same seat and he's just chilling throughout the whole ride,
Yeah.
or I'm holding on real tight because I'm afraid that that thing might happen again.
Hmm.
Yeah.
When we talk about trauma, it really refers to the emotional, psychological, and physical response to a distressing or life changing situation.
Mm.
That's good. So as it relates to marriage now, right? Because there are so many marriages that are inadvertently affected
Hmm.
Mhm.
by stuff they know and stuff they don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
how can we recognize the triggers, if you will, and recognize them without causing more damage, like causing more, because you talked about anxiety, you talked about depression. How can we recognize it, bring it to the surface, especially those that are unknown, obviously, without causing additional stress
Yeah.
and conflict?
Yeah.
So when you guys were talking about the question of the day,
Hmm.
and you were saying, like, you got to study your partner, you got to know your partner, that conversation also came up last night, and I made the statement that when you are married, you must enroll in your spouse's university.
Mhm.
And what that does is it does two things. The first thing is it increases awareness, and the second thing is it gives you a different lens to observe your partner in,
Yeah.
so that you kind of get to see the rhythm of your partner. So there are certain things when it happens, maybe there's a physiological thing that happens. Maybe the I don't have another word but to say energy, right? Or
Yeah.
vibe. Let's use the word vibe. Maybe the vibe changes, and we know when the vibe changes because we both feel it. So if there's a level of connection between two people, whenever there's a shift in emotion, we feel it.
Yeah.
Maybe what we'll say is like something's off with us, or we'll
Yeah.
say, it just feels tense between us. Or my favorite line that I say to my husband often is, "We good? You ain't got good?" Because I'm feeling like something's off, right?
Yeah.
So when we start to feel that, so let's then say that we are now aware that something in the room has changed.
Mm.
Many of us, we tend to not say anything when that happens because we don't want to stir up the water. So we just say, well, let me just see if it happens again. And if it happens again, I'll say something. Or we just pile it up and then it's under the rug. And now the rug is not even on the floor. You have all of this underneath the rug.
Yeah.
So if we're enrolling in the university of our spouse, that means we're sitting in the front row. We're not in the back. We're taking notes. We're asking questions.
Mm.
And, my friends tell me that I'm such a therapist. And what they mean by that is I don't know how to like not ask leading questions. So like I'll say to Vince, tell me more.
Mhm.
Can you explain like what just happened? What do you feel? And it's not that I'm being a therapist. I'm just looking for understanding. That's how my brain is wired. So it sounds therapy-ish. Or one time he was like, I don't want to be therapized. And I'm like, well,
Mhm.
bro, I'm not trying to therapize you. I'm just trying to get some understanding as to what made you do or say or respond so that I know how to show up. Because if you're saying that I felt, let's just say, disrespected by that comment, well, then I'm going to be mindful of how we communicate, right? So it's not just enrolling in the university, but it's also taking notes and asking questions. When we get married, not everybody, it should be, but for most of us, there's this honeymoonish kind of phase where, we are happy for some of us to get out of our current situation. So while we feel like it's love that brought us together and we decided to get married, but it saves us from something we're going through or been through, and we think marriage is the answer to the come through.
Yeah.
But oftentimes it's the come, not the through, because once we are settled in and the dust settles, the through is like a storm. And so how do we navigate through that storm together?
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Are you enrolled in my university?
I think I am.
Okay.
I think I am.
All right. Let me check the attendance. See if you're showing up every day or not.
I am.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Denise.
No, go ahead. You.
I was just going to say a way to enroll. Some people may be watching this and saying, well, what does that mean to enroll in someone's university? Like, what am I looking for? Like, how do I know that I'm getting what I need to get? There's so many different cards that are called conversation starters, marriage conversations, and all of those things. And that's how you enroll. You play that game. And so on the cards are questions you ask each other. And I have a set of cards that starts on it's categorized. So it can go from like very surface to really deep to very intimate. And the intimates are like things that you've never ever talked about, or maybe you're afraid to talk about those things, or you're scared to talk about them. But in order to get to a place where we can be vulnerable with one another, we have to be able to trust each other. The space has to be safe. And we create the safe space by knowing each other and seeing how each other would respond.
Right.
So in the disagreement, in an argument, in a conflict, that is not the time to ask those kinds of questions, because no matter how much you try to make it sound as though it's coming from a good place, it is always feel like it's coming from a bad place. So these are like car rides, these are like times when you guys are just chilling and hanging out, or maybe it's intentional where you set a date night, and the date night is that you guys are going to have these question conversations.
Yeah, I like that.
That's good. I was looking around while you were talking because we got them all over the
upstairs.
place. There's some on the back shelf, but we got some upstairs. I think there might be some over here as well. But yeah, that's a great idea in terms of just being able to create some scenarios that aren't real life for you, that you can read off of a card and then have a conversation about. So that's good.
The textbook answer also is, when you're looking and observing, you're looking for patterns that are disproportionate to the situation, right? Like, maybe someone huffing and puffing because it's in their head, maybe what they're thinking is, here we go again. But instead of saying, here we go again, they gesture it or they do something. Okay, but does that fit is this a conversation that we continuously are having? And it's like that hamster cage where we just keep going around and around. So when I say be observant, you're looking for things that are disproportionate to the situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Very good.
Man, so many questions I want to ask you. How about this?
Well, we addressed that. We talked about that one.
So let's go here, maybe.
Well, no, we didn't actually. Let's talk. You want me to do the first one?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so Armina, in what ways can unresolved trauma impact intimacy, holistic intimacy, I would say, not just sexual intimacy, and trust in the marriage? And how can these challenges be addressed? How can it affect all of that? And then how should we bring it up?
So I'm going to give you 3 answers.
Okay.
things. So the first one is it causes emotional distance, right? And so what I mean by that is trauma affects the brain. And so in the brain is where we do and decide all things, right? Our mechanisms are created there. And so we create mechanisms based on our experiences. And so the partner in the emotional distancing could be seen as creating a protective mechanism to protect themselves from getting hurt, right? They may not be aware that that's what they're doing, so there's no way to communicate that. They just know when they start to feel a certain way, or let's back up. So a situation occurs, conversation, and sometimes it's not even a disagreement. Sometimes it can be like, hey, can we be sexually intimate tonight? And if this person has a history of like sexual abuse, sexual misuse, every time they hear that up here, they may clam up, or they do either a few things. They either run, so they avoid that. They either fight and say, we already had sex this week. Like, how many times? So you get into the, well, how many times is enough for you kind of question, right? Or they freeze and do nothing. So if you are looking for patterns, and if you're observing, every time there's some kind of trigger around trauma, that person is going to do one of those three things.
Okay.
That's good.
So that's the first thing, is that we emotional distance. The second thing has to do with trust, right? If we have issues revolving around trust as it pertains to the trauma, particularly if it's involving a betrayal, abuse, this leads to this whole deep-seated trust issue. So it's not my partner's fault, because if you look around me and look at my ships around me, I may not have any deep ships. I may just have very surface relationships with people, because to me, that's the extent of where I can take relationships. And so it makes it harder, because of my past and my issues with trust, to really be able to trust my partner and others fully.
Wow.
It's not that I don't want to, I really do, but I am too afraid, I am too anxious that if I give in and I just let all my guards down, what happens if you betray me, if you abuse me, or if you hurt me? Where's that going to leave me?
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't do it. So I got to keep those walls up.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the last thing is communication barriers, right? So we're talking about communicating, we're talking about healthy communication, and we're looking at the relationship from the inside out. But trauma can affect one's ability to communicate effectively, which leads to a whole lot of misunderstandings and conflict.
Yeah.
So the question now becomes, let's say I recognize myself or my mate in what you just described, those three areas. What's the next step?
So there's a couple of steps, right? And because these things we're talking about is going to produce challenges within this marriage. And so the first, and I'm not giving this in any order, but these are just the things to consider. Some kind of a therapeutic intervention, right? And I'm not talking about like the show Hoarders, where they bring people in and they bum rush the person and lock the doors. And we're not doing that kind of intervention, but more so like a couples counseling, where it involves both partners learning about trauma. So if that's the case, you want to seek someone who specializes in that. You don't just want to go to a marriage and family therapist. You want someone who specializes in trauma, that can help you guys sort of navigate the impact the trauma is having on the relationship. And it could be simply that I just don't know why we're off, but we've been off for a very long time. And so we're here to figure out what's going on in our marriage so that we can be back on track. So you don't have to go to therapy with like key things, because what we're going to do is talk through that. Like, when did you start noticing that you're off? What's been happening with both of you? And then we dig into childhood stuff, right? Because the inner child, the child that we were talking about last night,
Mhm.
is going to show up in a relationship if it's not healed, if it's not
Mhm.
sort of brought up to speed chronologically with the person.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole idea of building safety and trust. And I talked a little bit about that, but marriage, I tell my couples, marriage is a space. It's like when you buy your first house or you rent your first place together, there is nothing in that space. I mean, to the
Mhm.
point where when you talk, there's echoing because there's nothing in it. It's just
Mhm.
walls. And sometimes the walls, when you move in, the color have changed, the things have been upgraded or done to the space. And that's like what marriage is. You both are coming into an empty space with all of the things you've had, right? And I think Park said it well last night when he said, we are, I'm going to say, I can't say used product because that's not right. But he said something like that, where he's like, we're like, if you go to buy a used car, that car
Mhm.
has been, it's had an owner before,
Yeah,
pre-owned.
pre-owned.
Pre-owned. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. And so we're coming into the space, and yes, we're going to decorate the physical space, but our emotions also will be living in the space as well.
Mhm.
And most of us didn't grow up in situations where we saw good modeling of what effective communication looks like in relationships.
Mhm.
So we're going to come to this space that is empty with what we think marriage looks like. I don't care how many times you went to premarital counseling.
Mhm.
Those things are just like foreign to us until we're in the space and we have to use those tools. And half the times we don't even know what the book is, if we even got a book. Okay.
Right.
So being able to build safety and trust in the space, and then also individual therapy. So yes, it's good to work on the marriage, but in that space, you're really not working on the individual. So a good marriage therapist would say, I'm going to meet with you all together for some times, and then I'm going to separate you guys and meet with you separately, just so I can get a better idea, get some more context as to what's going on. And then psychoeducation. And this is where the therapist gets to educate the couple on patterns of trauma, how it affects and what kinds of things it fosters. Does it foster empathy? Does it foster understanding? And how to even create that for the couple. So that's my answer of, here's what happens, and then here's how you can address it or work through it.
That's good.
Very good.
That's
I love
good.
it.
And listen, we're doing this in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
We're talking about this in a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
And we do recognize that it is not as simple as the short amount of time that we are talking about it.
Yeah.
So we're clearing, understanding that
Mhm.
the path, however, is from this space of recognition to a space of recovery. We're talking about going from trauma to triumph. And so you talked about how it shows up, what it is, how it shows up, what should be done about it. How
Mhm.
do we then, as it relates to moving into a triumphant space, how do we celebrate the progress and the growth that is being made on the path to triumph?
So that's a great question, because I think so much is usually spent on the problem
Right.
and not the progress.
Mhm.
And again, it goes to unspoken expectations, right? So in therapy, I see that all the time, where the client is so upset that they're not making progress, but they're coming every week. And so then that gives a space to talk about, well, what do you think progress is? And usually it's like, oh, I want to be healed. I don't want to feel the things I'm feeling anymore. And so it gives now space to unpack what that is, because those are expectations that we didn't set up in the beginning, right? Because I usually say, so what do you want to get out of therapy? And it's never, I want to be healed tomorrow.
Mhm.
Right. And what I tell my clients up front is like, I am not going to heal you. I'm not Jesus. I'm not God. I'm not going to heal you, but I'm going to give you tools to manage what's going to come. And I think that sometimes we come into the space looking for healing, but we got to acknowledge small wins. So for that particular client, I literally will pull up the calendar and said, we have had X amount of sessions and you have been here every single time.
Mhm.
And usually there's this journal or this book that they have that they take notes in. And it's like, and every time you're here, you're doing the work, right?
Mhm.
So let's celebrate the small wins.
Mhm.
For couples, it is just that recognizing and celebrating it. So it's not good to just recognize it, but you got to say, I really want to say, like, I'm so proud of you and the things that you're doing, because when I had an issue, I was loud about it, right? So now that
Mm.
you're doing all of this, I'm quiet. No, it deserves the same energy as it was when I was loud.
Yeah.
Like, great job. And you,
Mhm.
okay, so you be a little extra, but the person is going to feel as though they are seen, heard, and valued.
I
And
love
those
that.
are 3 things that people want to feel in life. I don't care, the toughest to the toughest want to be seen, heard, and valued.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's always that one person that those 3 things have to come from. All of your other ships, you could care less if they see you, hear your value, but that one main squeeze, that your person in life, if
Yeah.
they miss the mark on those things, it could really lead to some disappointment in the relationship. So acknowledging the small wins does that. It tells you, I see you, I hear you, and I value you.
Mhm.
Shared activities, do things together to give the opportunity for a win, right? Like,
Mm.
you go to couples counseling and the therapist says, or the coach says, so by the time we get together, I want you guys to do a date night.
Yeah.
And schedule the date night. And sometimes the one person says, I always schedule date night, so I'm not going to do it. It's your turn. Again, we're all winning or losing here, right? So
Mhm.
being able to share activities and then create rituals. And the ritual could be before we leave the house, we do a secret handshake, a pow pow, or
Mm.
kisses or hugs or whatever. Create something that only the 2 of you share together.
I love that.
And then positive reinforcements. And so highlighting moments, right, where the couple successfully navigated something, and then give a reward for that. Listen, if I worked and I didn't get paid, do you think I would keep wanting to work?
Right.
Right.
No, it would be, because it's an exchange.
Mhm.
Not that I'm looking to always be reinforced, but it helps me want to continue to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Very good. Very good.
That's great.
Yeah.
Listen, we've
Good
already
stuff.
kept you over time, and I got like 10 more questions, which I'm not going to ask. Don't worry. I'm not going to do that.
Can I just
Oh,
add one more thing to that? So
sure.
there's this thing called therapeutic milestones.
Mhm.
And so what that essentially means is to celebrate the milestones, right? So
Mhm.
if a year ago we were having these major issues and we've really been working on it, when that time passes, 6 months, 3 months, whatever you guys or whomever decide to say, you know what? We haven't had that blow up in like
Mhm.
2 weeks or 3
Mhm.
months, and then it's like, maybe good job. And that's it. You don't have to go into a whole deep conversation about it. It's just acknowledge the milestones that you guys are on this journey. And that's what that's what life is.
Mhm.
We are on a journey. If I was to sit here and say nothing for 10 minutes, I guarantee you the clock will still tick, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
whether we want to or not, we're being pushed along the way. But we get to decide what that journey looks like. We get to decide how we show up on the journey. And sometimes it's okay to sit on the journey because we need to catch our second wind. Maybe we need some encouragement. Maybe we need someone to just tell us we're doing good. And
Mhm.
so that's enough for another 50 miles on the journey.
Yeah, I love it.
I love
I
that.
love it. That is awesome.
I like
That
that.
is tremendous value that you shared. I know we talk about celebration as well,
Mhm.
being being the catalyst for the
It's
motivation that now
motivation.
becomes
Yeah.
the catalyst for consistency.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so that's awesome. Thank you so much
Mhm.
Yes.
for being here and being a part of this experience with us and sharing this value. Now, let me say this before we let you go. You heard, those of you who are watching now or watching the replay, you heard the value that she just dropped in just the few minutes that we're here, right?
Mhm.
So whether you are in this space and you are a couple who fits this exact scenario, or you are a couple who wants to move the needle in their relationship in one way or another, or you are a couple who wants to maintain what you have because you love what you have and build on that, this is the woman you need to contact. So, with that being said, how can individuals and couples get in touch with you?
That's like a put me on the spot kind of thing. That's like when I asked Parks last
I
night.
was just about to say, are you even
I should have asked, are you
accepting
accepting?
clients right now?
Right. I should have asked that. But in the event that you are,
Oh, wait, is the referral coming from you?
it probably would be.
No, on a serious note. So there are multiple ways to access counseling or therapy. There are ways through your insurance company. There are ways through, just going to like Black Girls in Therapy, clinicians of color. There's just so many sites out there where you can find a therapist. Now, what I will say though is when you get a call, when you get the phone number to call, you want to ask for a consultation because this is your life and your story. We're just like the passenger in the seat or on the journey with you. So you want to make sure that just like a relationship, because you enter into a therapeutic relationship with your therapist, that you guys click, you have the same values. I'm a Christian. I wouldn't see someone who is an atheist, right? So there are questions that you ask for a consultation to ask various questions about what do they do, what their modality and so forth. I am not accepting new clients. However, I am open to consultation to walking people through the steps. And so the way you can reach me for that is my phone number, and I'll give it to you. You can put it in the thing. It's 302-747-9995. My email is info@candorconsultingfirm.com, or just go to the website and you can fill out a form there and we get back to you. But it's candorconsultingfirm.com. And you get to read about me and some of the other therapists that are in my practice. I do have internship opportunities. I'm an adjunct at Dell State University, and I also am a field placement. So I get a lot of social work interns that come, and you guys will get to meet one on Saturday. So we're out here doing good stuff. But what I won't do is just say, no, I'm not seeing you. Sometimes, there's a lag in getting services, right? And so maybe 2 or 3 sessions can hold you up. But I'm going to put a shameless plug in for this. Black Brain Campaign in Philadelphia. If you live in Philadelphia, they offer up to 12 free sessions, regardless of your income, regardless if you have insurance or not. It is a campaign that they have. And so they're trying to kill and crush the stigma around mental health and also the barriers, right? Because money, insurance, going to the appointments, all those things have been proven to be barriers. And so, that's what I got for y'all tonight.
Cool.
That's
and if you want to check out
fantastic.
Black Brain Campaign, there is the website on your screen for that as well. Thank you
Very
so
cool.
much.
You're welcome.
I know I kept you over time. If you want to hang out for the last word, I know you got a family and things to do. It's evening time. So we want to thank you again for your presence here and for lending some time to add value to this space.
Yeah, I'll hang out a little bit.
All right, cool. So stay put. I'm going to put you back for a second. We're going to close the show out and then we'll be back with you in just a moment. All right.
Awesome.
Good.
Listen.
Thanks, Armina.
That's
That
our
was
buddy.
amazing.
And she
As we
came
knew it would
right
be.
and dropped the knowledge that we knew
That she would drop.
Yeah. So there you go. There's nothing else left to say. Listen, we are coming down to the end of our show, and we end every show with
The last word.
yes. Yeah, I had to have. I'm gonna point to you every time we say this because I didn't let you
You
say it the
always
last
cut
time.
me off.
All right. So here we go. What we got for the last
So
word?
let's keep the whole conversation theme going that we've been talking about for the past week or so.
Okay.
A sincere apology does not include a but. Does not include a but. And what do we
Okay.
mean by that?
Okay.
If I am sincerely apologizing to you because I hurt you or offended you or said something to you, whatever, I owe you an apology. If I say to you, I really apologize for that, but it kind of negates everything that I said before that. It's like, do I really even, is my apology sincere? Because I'm saying but, like, man, I apologize, but, and what follows that usually
Is the real issue.
is the real issue. I apologize, but if you hadn't have made me do da 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 da, or if you didn't say XYZ, then
Right.
I wouldn't have done what I did.
Mhm.
I apologize, but you always make me do XYZ.
Mhm.
You know, so a sincere apology does not include a but. A sincere apology is, I can see how that hurt you or offended you. That was not my intent.
Mhm.
I apologize. Do you accept my apology? That's it.
Mm.
How
Yeah.
can I not do whatever I did going forward?
Yeah.
Because I feel like XYZ. But the but, in putting the but in there after you say that I apologize, but
You kill
it
all the other
just,
stuff.
you kill all the other stuff. It
That's good.
negates it all.
That's good.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. So it's like you don't want to be accountable. You don't want to take ownership.
That's it.
Yeah. So hey,
I
listen.
want you to, if I say but, I apologize, but it's like I'm throwing the issue back to you. The issue is you, not me.
Right.
So a sincere apology doesn't include a but.
There you have it, folks. That's the last word. If you got a but in your apology, then I was gonna say something.
No, don't.
I was gonna say
Don't.
Never mind.
I can only imagine. Just don't.
Never mind. Listen, you need to have ownership, and you need to be accountable.
Own your apology.
You need to be accountable for that. So,
Yeah.
man, that's an awesome last word. Man, this was a great show.
It was a good show.
This was a great show. Listen, if you are coming in late for some reason, go back and catch it all the way from the beginning with a very interesting media mix down. A great question of the week about love languages. Phenomenal guest to talk about going from trauma to triumph, and a last word that you can take with you as you go about your intermarital interactions, relational interactions. All right. So listen, we're going to get out of here. This has been a great show. Thank you for those of you who have been a part of this by watching. Thank you for those of you who have been a part of this by commenting.
Excellent show.
Thank you
today.
for those of you who have been a part of this by sharing. Shout out to B Coop in the comments. He said we thank you both. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well,
to you and your lovely wife for being here as well. And in the comments, we appreciate that. Listen, we're going to get out of here. Remember, if you are a Saturday night person and you like hanging out, somewhat late at night, you need to come check us out for Have a Conversation After Dark.
Yeah.
These conversations, here's what I encourage you to do. Go to our YouTube channel and just look at some past conversations.
The other ones. Yes.
Yeah, just do that and then come back. Trust me, you'll be back once you see some of those other conversations. You will be back. Listen, we pray God's blessing on your marriages. We pray that you experience love, true companionship, and that anything that you need to heal from, that the healing process will begin today.
Amen.
All right. Yeah. Listen, thank you for being here for this episode of Inside the Relationship. We will see you next Thursday for another one. Share this one, send it to somebody, let them know they need to be here next Thursday. All right. Peace and blessings.
Take care, everyone.
Let's go.
Oh, hold on. We're not starting over.
I was going to say
Let's be clear about that. We're not about to do this all over again.
We're not doing it again.
Okay. So we're leaving. So when we leave, an outro should be played. Okay. We're not starting over. Yeah, we just wanted to clear that up. All right. So we're literally leaving right now.
Okay.
Peace out.